This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, hi all, good morning. Uh, in the previous session, we discussed how to write an XSD uh, and a valid XML which is following the XSD. Okay, so what we learned, how to write definition of a complex element and definition of a simple element. So by following this, I provided you some syntaxes, right? How to define a complex element and syntax, how to write a simple element. So with that, we wrote few examples as well. So today, I want to discuss about WSDL. Okay, we started our session with a web service concept, if you remember, right? So we started our discussions with a web service. It can be a SOAP web service or it can be a REST web service. Okay, so web service, in a web service, input output in a SOAP web service, especially SOAP web service, we can say the input and output always in XML format. For that, we learned XML. And then the next part of the WSDL is interface. We also call it as WSDL. Okay, web service interface or WSDL. So this part we are going to learn in today's session. Okay, so let me give you some information about WSDL. So when I am talking about WSDL, WSDL is also called as interface. Okay, WSDL is called as web service interface. Okay, so what this WSDL contains? WSDL don't contains any business logic. It won't have any business logic. WSDL contains definition of the web service. Okay, definition of web service. I mean, generally definition means what? Generic meaning of a definition. Let me close this. It is not required. Okay, so generic meaning of the definition means in any context. In any context, definition means explaining about that specific object. Correct? To give some information about that specific object. But it's not that we are going to do it. Okay, we have no business logic in WSDL. Remember the point? We have no business logic in WSDL. It is a definition of web service. It will define the web service. What web service is going to do will be described by WSDL. Okay, so when we are talking about WSDL, there are two types of WSDLs. Okay, abstract WSDL and then concrete WSDL. Concrete WSDL. Okay, so in abstract WSDL, so when we call it as abstract WSDL, when we call it as concrete WSDL. So abstract WSDL contains definitions as root element, Under definitions, it will contain types, message, port type. So these are all the sub-elements of definition. I will show you the example along with the syntax. Just try to remember what I am saying. Okay. When we are talking about concrete WSDL, it contains definitions as a root element, which contains collection of sub-elements, types, message, port type, and then bindings and service. So abstract WSDL contains definitions as complex elements and three sub-elements, types, message, port type. And concrete WSDL contains definition, types, message, port type, bindings, and services. These are all the elements. A WSDL document, if you open any WSDL document, it contains these components, these elements. I will show you one example how a WSDL looks like. If you see this example, guys, okay, see, this is definitions is the root element. Definitions is the root element, which contains types, message, port type, binding, service. See the elements. If you open any concrete WSDL, these are all the sub-elements under definition. Any question till now? Any question? I will explain each element, guys. Let me know if you have any question up to this point.
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. So we'll talk about each section, but at least you got an idea, right? What I am talking about. I'm talking about WSDL. WSDL also belongs to XML family of languages. So WSDL also contains elements, attributes only, nothing else. But WSDL contains set of predefined keywords in this hierarchy. Definitions is the root element which contains types, message, port type. Similarly, concrete WSDL contains types, message, port type, bindings, and service. I will tell you each section. Okay, I will give you an example and I will explain how to write this WSDL. Right. Let me close this example. This is not required anymore. Okay. So here, guys, this is not bindings. This is binding. Okay, this is binding. Right. Definitions is correct, right? Let me once cross check. Definitions is correct. Okay, root element contains, yes. See this, root element contains definitions. All other are singular term. Types, message, binding, service. So these are all the sub elements anyway. Let me give you one example. I will explain what is the difference between abstract WSDL and concrete WSDL today. Just wait for some time. So what I want to do is, let's assume we need to build a web service. Okay, we want to build a web service which can perform addition of two numbers. The requirement is build a web service to perform addition of two numbers. So this is my requirement, guys. I want to build a web service. Building a web service means what we need to do, we need to define WSDL, and we need to have body of the web service. If you have these two things, then only you can prepare the web service. Agree? So while you are preparing a web service, you need to build two things. One is WSDL and web service body. This is what we discussed in the image. See, if you want to create a SOAP web service, you need to create WSDL, you need to create body of the web service. Any questions till now? Any questions? Okay, so now,
No, sir.
no, okay, good. So when we are creating, if you want to create WSDL and body, how to create the WSDL, I mean, what syntax we need to follow, that part we are going to see now. Okay, what I will do, body, I mean, once we are comfortable with everything, there are bunch of dependent topics before I go to body concept, before I go to web service body section. There are bunch of things we need to learn. We already covered XML, XSD, and WSDL. Sorry, today we are going to cover the WSDL. Okay, after that, there is a concept called namespace. Once the namespace concept covered, then we will talk about how to build a web service body. Okay, now this is the example. Let's consider this example. Sir, if you consider this example, build a web service to perform addition of two numbers. So for this program, forget about the technology of this program. So to build this kind of requirement, to develop this kind of requirement, what is the input we need to provide? For this requirement, what is the input?
Two
Input
integers
is
or two numbers in between.
two numbers. We need to supply two numbers as input. Okay. What is the expected output? When the program is doing addition of two numbers, what is the expected output?
Result. Addition of two
Addition
numbers.
addition will be the result. Addition will be the output, correct? That means this program input contains two integers. Output contains addition, one integer, which is nothing but addition of two numbers. Okay, result of addition, whatever the result it is. Okay, input contains two integers, output contain one integer. This is just for understanding. I mean, this program is going to accept two integers as input, one integer as output. Just a high level understanding. Okay, now go and we'll prepare a visible document. Okay, in this document, guys, in this document, I will tell you the syntax. Let me save this document. Let me save this document. Visible syntax. Okay, and in this document, I will write the actual visible. I will say addition interface and the extension is visible. See guys, XML document extension is .xml, XSD document extension is .xsd, visible document extension is .visible. Remember, okay? Now save this document. Now, okay, let's. I'm just converting the format of the document. Okay. Now, if you see this, guys, in the left side document, I will talk about syntax. Left side document, I will talk about visible syntax. Right side document, I will talk about visible, actual visible. Okay, sir, visible document also belongs to XML family. Any XML family starts with a processing instruction. We know the processing instruction, right? We learned when we are discussing XML, we learned how to write a processing instruction. It's a standard statement and a fixed statement. You don't need to modify it. Okay, XML version equal to, as of now we have only one version of XML, encoding is equal to UTF-8. It's a standard statement when you are writing any XML family document. Guys, as of now, when I'm referring XML family document, it can be XML document, it can be XSD document, it can be visible document. Okay, there are few other documents as well. Going forward, we'll see something like XSLT, XQuery. These are also belongs to XML family. Going forward, we'll see. But now we are talking about visible. Visible also belongs to XML family language. So it will follow, it will starts with a processing instruction. Okay, and then what I said, definitions is the root element. Definitions is the root element of the document. Definitions, you need to remember the syntax, guys, you should not forget. Okay, definitions is the root element of visible document. So whatever you want to prepare in the visible, first you need to keep a definitions element. It is predefined keyword, you must not change it. Okay, under definitions section we can prepare types. Okay, types open tag, types close tag. Under types section, under types, inside types, schema, close schema. Okay, inside schema, here we need to create XSD document. We need to create XSD document. Whatever XSD we want. We see, this is what we discussed right here. Our input contains two integers. For this requirement, our input requires two integers. That means we need an XSD which can define one complex element, two integers, two simple elements. Correct? This is the input of our web service. Okay, here this is the place to write the XSD. Okay, let me write the XSD. We know already how to write an XSD. We are just writing that inside Wisdom. We already know how to write XSD. So this is the place to write the XSD. Okay, close the schema tag, close the types tag. Okay, now inside schema, this is the place we need to write the XSD. So what is the XSD we need? We need one complex element and two simple elements for our input. For our input, we need one complex element and two simple elements. So let me quickly create the XSD. Element name is equal to, I will write request. Request is the complex element name. It is user defined, right? This part is user defined. This is user defined. Okay, and then it is a complex type element. It is a complex type element. Write sequence. Hope you remember the syntax. Don't forget the syntax, right? Element name is equal to, I am writing, we need two simple elements, right? I will say input one data type is integer. Okay, and then go to element name is equal to input 2 type is equal to integer. Close the tag. Now close sequence, close complex type, close element. Okay, so this is how the first XSD, I prepared the XSD inside WSDL under type section. Okay, under type section, I created my input XSD. My web service needs input and output. Inside WSDL, I defined my input structure, whatever is required for my web service. Okay, so this is for input. So input is not enough, right? For a web service. For a web service, we need input as well as output. So I defined the input here. Now I need to define the output as well. So how we can define the output? This type section is allowed multiple times. This syntax, it is allowed multiple times in WSDL. That means I can write one more XSD types, which contains schema, which contains our XSD, this is our output XSD. What I will do is output, as per our requirement, output is only one integer. But guys, just for one integer, one simple element is enough, correct? Defining one simple element is enough. But it is a good practice, always maintain at least one simple element, at least one complex element when you are writing even a small XSD. So as per the current requirement, in our current requirement, our output contains only one integer. That means simple element is enough. If you define simple element, that is enough. But it is a good practice, always maintain at least one complex element. That means now what I need to do, I need to maintain at least one complex element. Under the complex element, I will define the required simple element. Okay. So what I will say response. Above one is request, right? This is request XSD. I will say response XSD. Again, the same template we need to follow. Complex type. See, in the complex type, T is capital. We discussed it in the previous session. Okay, sequence. Under that, how many simple elements we need? Only one simple element. Okay, I will say result. Okay, result. And type here is addition of two numbers, result also an integer, right?
Integer.
Okay, self close the sequence. You must not miss the syntax. You should follow the syntax. Complex type element, and then close schema, and then close types. Okay, so for in my WSDL, as per requirement, I need one request XSD and I need one response XSD. Okay, see, this is the requirement. I need one request. I need to define input. I need to define output. So in this example, I defined input structure here. Input structure, this is request XSD. Request XSD, the top element we use as name, request XSD, and this is response XSD. As per requirement, request XSD needs 2 integers as input. As per output, output needs 1 integer as output. Okay, simple element, as per the requirement, we can define our simple elements, guys, and we will maintain at least one grouping element, which is nothing but a complex element. So any questions till now? How to write types section in a WSDL? How to write types section in a WSDL? Okay, so guys, in this session, just understand the syntax. Don't worry why we are doing or why we are following this syntax. Don't go to that point. Okay, just follow this. Give me some time. I will make sure you will understand this concept, but simply follow my instructions and remember the syntax. Okay, this is a standard syntax you need to follow. Types, schema. Under that you can write your XSD. Under that you can write your XSD. You can repeat this types element any number of times. There is no limitation. You can repeat this for every XSD. You can repeat this type section. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Now we'll go to next section of the WSDL. The next section is message. Message name is equal to, okay, we can write some user defined keyword here. Okay, just for your understanding, I'm writing it like with some hyphens. Okay, if you see this hyphens here, it is some user defined keyword. Okay, message which contains part, name is equal to, again user defined keyword. Okay, name, element is equal to, so this is XSD. We need to write the name of XSD. I will show you the example. Self close. Self close. You know what I mean by self close? Yesterday we discussed, in the previous session we discussed, right? What is self closed? Close message.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the syntax to write a message section. So this message section, it is alias name of XSD. This is an instance of XSD. Okay, I mean, for one XSD, we can have multiple messages. Suppose, let's say, a person is there, a child is there, okay, a kid. Okay, for that kid has a name. That kid has a name called Ravi. Okay, that kid has a name called Ravi. But in his home, parents are calling him Chintu. Possible? Not possible. Do you see such scenarios?
Possible, sir.
Possible. So
Yes,
there is a kid, he has a name, but parents are calling Chintu. Okay. Friends are calling something else, Chotu. Okay. So this way he has a name, no doubt, but he has alias names, nicknames. Okay. Similarly, this message section will behave. This message section will behave as alias name of XSD. We'll see the purpose why we need to have a message name as an alias name of XSD. We'll see that purpose, but try to understand the syntax in this session, nothing else. Okay. So now you are clear. So how many XSDs we have in our example? How many XSDs we have?
2 XSDs.
Request and response.
We
Two,
have
sir.
2 XSD, request XSD and response XSD. Now what I want to do is, I want to create one message for request XSD, one message for response XSD. Okay, by following the syntax as is. So in the syntax, whatever I see, these are all the standard keywords. Message is a standard keyword, name is a standard keyword, part is a standard keyword, name is a standard keyword, element standard keyword or predefined keyword, you can say. and close tag. So wherever you see user defined keyword, you can give anything. You can give anything. Okay, right. Now let me go to the example. In this example, I want to prepare a message section for my request XSD. I will say message name is equal to what is the keyword we need to fill in this blank? What is the keyword? User defined keyword. I can give anything. So is it okay? Yes, no. Yes, it is okay. I said user defined keyword. You can give anything. You can give anything. Okay. So, but it's always suggestible and best practice to give meaningful keywords. So what I will do, I will say request message. Okay. Why? Because I am creating this message block as alias name of my request XSD. Okay, there is no other reason. It is predefined, completely predefined. It's not restricted to this keyword. You can use XYZ as well. Okay, now I will go to the next line. As per syntax, part name is equal to, this is something user defined again. See, the name is equal to user defined. Can I say XYZ? Allowed, not allowed?
Yes, sir. Allowed.
Allowed. Element is equal to, we need to write the name of the XSD. In this blank, you need to write the name of the XSD. See the syntax, name of the XSD. Okay. Now, what is the name of our XSD? See, this is our
Request.
XSD. Line number 5 starts at line number 5, close at line number 12. This is our XSD. The topmost element which is defined, treated as name of the XSD. Okay. So now, what is the name of our XSD, sir? Request is the name of our XSD, and you need to self close this tag. In the next line, close message. Okay, any questions as of now? I created one message block, one message element as an alias name of request XSD, and the message name is request message. So is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir. For me, clear.
Okay. Yeah. How about others?
Yes.
Speak out, guys. Everybody.
Sir.
Clear for everyone. Okay. Right. So now let me create the message block for response XSD. Same syntax we can follow. Tell me quickly. Speak out. What I need to type.
Message name is equal to
Message name
response.
is equal
Quickly.
to
Don't wait for
response
somebody.
message.
Yeah. Message is equal to, message name is equal to, what is this?
Response.
No, you should say user defined keyword. What is this? What we need to fill in this blank?
Response message, sir.
No, user defined
User
keyword.
defined
Keyword.
Anything,
You should write
anything
user
XYZ.
defined keyword. Of course, it is response
Response
message. You
message.
should remember that in this blank, it is user defined keyword. Okay. Under this part, name is equal to, I will say some ABC. I will talk about this part little bit later. Okay. Element is equal to XSD name. Not result, XSD name, which is nothing but response XSD, and close the tag. Okay, message, close the message tag. And so now what we did in our example, we created request XSD, response XSD, and there is a message as alias name of request XSD, second message as alias name of response XSD. Are we good till this point, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now go to the next section. What is the next section? What is the next section, sir?
Body.
Types covered. Types covered.
Four types.
Message section covered. What is the next one? Port type. We need to talk about port type. Okay. Let me give you the syntax for port type. Port type, P capital, guys. Observe. Name is equal to user defined keyword. Under this, operation name is equal to, again, user defined keyword. Let me expand it. Okay, user defined keyword. Operation contains input parameter input parameter, name of message, close it, output parameter, this is also contains name of message, and it contains another parameter called fault. We'll see what is this. Okay, fault parameter name is equal to, you need to by heart this syntax, guys. It's very important. We are going to use this syntax in our examples. Okay, name is user defined keyword, message is equal to name of message, close tag. Okay, guys, we can have multiple fault elements under one operation, and then close operation. Okay, so under the port type, we are allowed to write multiple operations, not just one operation. Okay, see the basic syntax, port type, these are, I mean, wherever I am using hyphen, understand it is a user defined keyword. Wherever I am using hyphen, see this is user defined keyword. Okay, everywhere I will, I mean, just for our understanding, nothing it's not a standard way of doing it, just to make you understand I'm using this. Okay, user defined keyword. Name of the message. So why I'm not saying a user defined keyword here, because it is predefined already. When I'm said name of the message, it is already defined in message section. Okay, it's not predefined keyword here. Anyway, just see the syntax. Port type which contains an operation. Operation contains input, output, more than one fault. I mean, either one or more than one fault. Okay, not just one fault. If the requirement demands, we can prepare 10 faults as well under one operation. We'll see that why we need it, but I told you right in the beginning itself, just understand the syntax. Don't search for the reason why we are following this syntax. Okay, so in a WSDL, we can create one or more than one port types. In a WSDL, we can create one or more than one port types. Sorry guys, give me 1 second, I'm having some water. Okay, so in a WSDL, one or more than one port type is allowed. In each port type, one or more than one operation also allowed. In each port type, see the first port type we have only one operation, but in the second port type we have two operations. I will explain what are all these, but just understand the syntax. Okay, so in a WSDL, one or more than one port type is allowed. Under port type, one or more than one operation is allowed. Okay, under the operation, we have three types of elements. They are input, output, fault. Okay, input, I mean, you can define an operation with input, output, multiple fault parameters or multiple elements, input, output, multiple fault elements, input element, output element, fault element. Okay, or you can define an operation with only input element, output element. Okay, without fault, it is allowed. You can define an operation only with input element. No need to define the output and fault elements. So output and fault are optional. But input is a mandatory element you need to define. You cannot define an operation without input element. If you define an operation without input element, that is a syntax error. Your WSDL is not correct. Okay, so this is the syntax to define port type section. Any questions in the syntax of port type? Don't worry why we are following this syntax. Don't think in that direction. Just by heart the syntax. Any questions till now? No?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No.
Okay, so by following this syntax, I want to prepare port type in my WSDL. Okay, let me start the coding. So what is this? Port type name is equal to what I need to fill in this blank, sir?
User defined.
User defined keyword. So what I will do, add port. I will say add port. Okay, it's just a user defined keyword. You can give XYZ as well, not an issue. Under port type, we will have operation. Operation name is equal to, again, what we need to fill in this blank?
This is also user defined.
User defined keyword. So I want to say add operation. Is it fine? It's just a user defined keyword. There is no big secret behind the keyword. Okay, I'm just trying to give meaningful keywords. That's it, not more than that. Okay, and then under operation, sir, we understand that our program needs input and output, correct? 2 integers as input, 1 integer as output. So our program needs input parameter, and what is the input message here? What is the input message? Request message. Request message is our input message. See the syntax. Message section, what we need to write? Name of the message. Name of the message. So my message name is request message. Close the tag, self close, and then my program needs output. My program needs output. So message equal to, which message we want to use as output message?
Response message.
Response message. This one, we defined request message, we defined response message. So I'm using response message as my output. Okay, and close tag, close the operation, and close the port type. See, in syntax I gave you a big syntax, but it is not mandatory to use everything here. In our requirement, we are talking about only one operation. We are talking about addition operation. That's it. Correct. So one operation is enough in our WSDL. Let's assume we want to build a web service which can perform two different actions. Then we can define two different operations. Okay, but just understand the syntax. As per the syntax, in a WSDL, multiple port type sections are allowed. In each port type, multiple operations are allowed. In each operation, maximum 3 types of parameters allowed. 3 types of parameters, nothing but input, output, fault. Fault is allowed more than one time. Input, output are not allowed more than one time. Okay, in a program we have one standard input, one standard output. Okay, we don't have two different inputs for one program. Okay, so one input, one output. Fault can be multiple. In a program we may see different kinds of errors. Okay, so fault is allowed multiple times. So anyway, in the current example, I'm not dealing with fault. That is fine, right? If you see this syntax, it is allowed. This format is allowed. Operation, input, output. So I just took this syntax. So, but there are 3 types of syntaxes for operation. Number 1, where operation contains input, output, fault. Number 2, operation contains input and output. Number 3, operation contains only input. All three different types of operations we can define in our web service. Okay, in my example, I took this example because my program needs input, my program needs output. So any question till now? Any question?
Nothing from my end, sir. Got it.
Others?
No, sir.
Sampath,
No,
Vikram. No?
Clear, sir. Clear.
You are up here. Okay, good. So what we are doing here, we are simply following the syntax. And preparing this WSDL. Okay, WSDL is not over. There is some part we need to discuss. Okay, but as of now, what are all we discussed? Types, message, port type. So what WSDL we learn today? What WSDL we learn?
Abstract visitor, sir.
We
Abstract
learn
visual.
how to write an abstract WSDL. We learn how to write an abstract WSDL. So here, if you see the concrete WSDL, this also contains definitions as root element, types, message, port type. But there is something called bindings and service. Bindings and service. Okay. So this bindings section specially handles security of the web service, header data, which you are going forward, we'll see some examples. Okay. So this binding section mainly concentrate on security part of the web service and header data. So what is this header data? So I will talk about header data once I introduce a protocol called SOAP protocol. At that time I will discuss. For now, not required. Just I'm giving a kind of introduction, nothing else. Understand the syntax and you should understand this example. So any questions as of now? Any questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So I will stop the recording here.